This is the Tom Bigby Tales, and I'm your host, Shannon Evans. I write about a small town in northeast Mississippi called Columbus, and sometimes I write about the rest of the state. This episode is titled The Fossil Park Funding Controversy, a deep dive into local governance and the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation. In this investigative episode, I'm going to unpack a complex story of local governance, financial accountability, and potential mismanagement in our city's grant processes. I want to explore the governance issues surrounding this proposed Luxpalila Fossil Park project and the controversial funding mechanism, especially as it centers on Nancy Carpenter, the CEO of the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation, also referred to as CCHF, as well as a web of financial allegations that raise serious questions about grant management and public accountability based on a recent Memorandum of Agreement between the City of Columbus and the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation, facilitated by the city's grant writer. Some key points that need to be addressed include questions about financial transparency, concerns over grant management, potential conflicts of interest, and the importance of public oversight. I'm going to begin by reading this Memorandum of Understanding, or rather, this Memorandum of Agreement between the City of Columbus, Mississippi and the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation regarding funding for the Columbus Fossil Park, requiring a 501c3 nonprofit designation. Whereas the City of Columbus has approved the development of an educational and recreational Cretaceous fossil park to be located on the bank of the Luxpalila Creek at Probst Park. We'll be applying for funding for this fossil park from a number of foundations, businesses, and individuals interested in funding educational and recreational projects in our community that require their funds go to a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, and whereas the City of Columbus's Department of Parks and Rec, in an effort to raise funds for the development and ongoing maintenance of the fossil park, will be selling items such as t-shirts and books that require the charging of sales tax, and whereas the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation is a registered and qualified Mississippi 501c3 nonprofit corporation in good standing that operates the Tennessee Williams Welcome Center in downtown Columbus and holds a Mississippi state sales tax license, and has agreed to partner with the City of Columbus to open a special bank account specifically and strictly for funding the development and the maintenance of the fossil park. Now, therefore, the mayor and city council of the City of Columbus and the CCHF agree that upon entry into the MOA, the City of Columbus authorizes the CCHF to serve as a nonprofit sponsor of the Columbus Fossil Park project with the following stipulations. 1. The City of Columbus Chief Financial Officer, Chief Operations Officer, and Grant Writer Administrator will have full oversight of the CCHF account on behalf of the city, and the City Council will receive monthly reconciliatory reports on the account. Upon receipt of funds payable to the CCHF for the purposes of funding the Columbus Fossil Park, the City of Columbus will forward those funds to the director of the CCHF. Upon CCHF's first receipt of such funds, CCHF shall open a bank account specifically for the development of the fossil park, requiring 2 signatures on checks: the director of the CCHF, i.e. Nancy Carpenter, and the City of Columbus's Chief Financial Officer. All such future funds received by the foundation dedicated to the said fossil park shall be deposited into the CCHF fossil park account and managed as described herein. Additional funding received by the City of Columbus will require a nonprofit to receive the funds, will be documented and forwarded to the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation for deposit into that park account. Each and every expense and payment made from the foundation account for the fossil park is required to be submitted to the mayor and city council for approval before being paid. Council approved items purchased and sold for the fossil park will go through the foundation fossil park account. Mississippi sales tax will be charged on items sold, and monies from these sales will be deposited into the foundation fossil park account. Mississippi sales tax collected for fossil park merchandise will be paid to the foundation monthly by check from the Fossil Park account, and the foundation will report and pay those taxes. This MOA shall only be amended in writing and approved by the governing boards of the foundation and the mayor and the city council. This agreement may be terminated on 30 days advance notice with or without cause at the will and pleasure of either party. Signed by Keith Gaskin, our current mayor, and the Nancy Carpenter, CEO of the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation. So let's talk about how our story here centers on Nancy Carpenter, the CEO of the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation, her history, and a web of financial allegations that raise serious questions about grant management and public accountability based on this Memorandum of Understanding. We know that Nancy Carpenter is not to be trusted. She misused money at the CVB, the Columbus Visitors Bureau, her former employer, for years. She has not been transparent at the CVB, and she is currently not transparent at the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation, where she is the CEO, with, let's just start with, the Tennessee Williams statue, or the renovations at the Tennessee Williams building, or with the multiple grants, including the current one she has with $54,069.69 matching grant from last year that she has not been transparent about with the city that gifted her the $54,000. She also received grants from the Heritage Hills and the Mississippi State Archives, two organizations where she sits on the board and was awarded the money to the Columbus Cultural Heritage, where she is the CEO, and clearly has created her own self-licking ice cream cone. It was because of her irresponsible history with grants and finances and our money collected from the restaurant tax that she lost her job at the CVB. Carpenter, her board, and her attorney with her current position at the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation have done nothing to be open and transparent about their money, their projects, and their future plans. Additionally, their 990s, which are supposed to show the grant monies they give or receive as a nonprofit, are restricted and require the public to request them instead of publishing them in the 990 forms publicly so that they can be found online through open records forums like ProPublica. Why do they keep things hidden and restricted? Here are some financial red flags we should consider. We know Nancy Carpenter's previous issues with money. She has documented history of unauthorized financial transactions at the Columbus Convention and Visitors Bureau, as well as her questionable management at the CVB. And there are multiple unresolved concerns about current grants that Carpenter has opened or has received. But now it is more than just Nancy who is not to be trusted. Who decided that the only 501c3 in Columbus to use was this Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation? Why not the Community Foundation or CREATE? They are both 501c3s, and they are transparent, and they have leadership and boards that are incredibly well respected and that are very transparent in their behaviors and their actions. Why did the grant writer and the Parks and Rec director tell the Columbus City Council, when questioned what monies was being funneled through the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation, and in return the grant writer and the Parks and Rec director stated that it was for, quote, t-shirts and promotional items so that they could collect sales tax, when in reality any and all grant money gathered for the Lux Fossil Park for development and maintenance of said park would be funneled through the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation's hands, and notably Nancy Carpenter would be the co-owner of the account with the city. Carpenter would be a co-signer on this account. Carpenter, who has a bad habit of forgetting to get a second signature on checks out of bank accounts that require two signatures. According to yearly audits from Watkins, Stafford, and Ward, there are multiple incidents each year where Carpenter has written and signed a check without a required co-signature and made unauthorized purchases when she was at the CVB and at the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation as recently as the 2023-2024 fiscal year. So why would anyone allow any money for city park projects to pass through Nancy Carpenter's hands into an account with her name on it? These monies, potentially hundreds of thousands of grant dollars, would be placed in the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation account where she would have unfettered access. The 2 signature requirements has never stopped her before. Why would it stop her now? Allowing her access to this kind of money is a really bad idea. And the grant writer for the city was certainly not happy when I went in and I requested a copy of this MOA, and now we know why. She was not happy I questioned why this was done with the same lack of transparency that Nancy is known for. It was clear by the tone and timbre of the grant writer's voice that she was not happy with my questions, my concern, or the concerns of the mayor or the CFO, Jim Brigham. Why did the grant officer clearly minimize, and I would venture she acted deceptively in the April 15th City Council meeting about Carpenter's access to the money and what monies would be going through that account? Why would she beg me not to mention this on my podcast? Why would she discourage transparency? Now, in reality, this should go back before the City Council because the unanimous vote was based on a falsehood, and the council was not told the complete truth of the Memorandum of Agreement. I have spoken to the mayor, Jim Brigham, and my councilman, Stephen Jones, and all agree that this was ramrodded through the council by the grant writer under less than a fully transparent discussion over who has access to the accounts, what will go through that account, and how it will be monitored. By the end of my meeting with the mayor, the CFO, and the grant writer was scurrying around making calls to another nonprofit in town to move the account and the Memorandum of Agreement. The fossil park will make a great addition to our town. If you put the funding anywhere near Carpenter's hands, it will go the way of the non-existent Tennessee Williams historic signage in front of Trustmark and the way of the money for the also non-existent Children's Museum, both of which Carpenter was responsible for and yet never held accountable for their lack of completion. We know Carpenter has a less than stellar track record, both of which Carpenter was responsible for and yet never held accountable for the monies that completely disappeared. We know Carpenter has a less than stellar track record with managing public money for public projects. Why on earth would you ever put any money anywhere near her that was for the people of this city? Please call, text, email your city council person today and let them know that they need to hold the city's grant writer accountable for her lack of truthfulness about what city-designated grant money would be coming through the foundation coffers, and tell them to never trust Carpenter with city money again. There are other more transparent and fiscally responsible nonprofit agents in this community. This isn't just about one project or one person. It's about maintaining the public's trust in our local governance, and that starts with the people who work for our elected officials. I'm your host, Shannon Evans. Until next time.